Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too. Continuing my tribute to Robert Bly, one of my first teachers who expanded my view of the archetypes to include the grief man, the inner royal person that has to keep it together for the good of the realm, doesn't want to show the grief, the wise person within oneself who has the view of the inner world, that vision takes them beyond the grief, the warrior who acts in concert with higher ideals, the throne worthy to be loyal to, gives their life in sacrifice. They don't have time to grieve. And the lover, which is filled with the appreciative consciousness, just sees the passion and the beauty all over. They don't grieve either, but not so the wild man, the grief person. You acknowledge the sadness that's there first by acknowledging your own wound. We say the difference between the savage person and the wild energy is the savage person denies their own wound and then unconsciously wounds other people to keep the wound out in front of them, but they don't see what they're doing. Whereas the wild energy recognizes one's wound, works on that, and there's no need to wound other people. Another thing that happens is when you feel the grief of your own pain, you see other people's pain. You realize that you spend a lifetime trying to bless other people, trying to bring people up in their own estimation, delighting in the budding power of young men and young women who are going to be the next generation to take over. So we want to help them as we pass the mantle of power on to the next generation. And once you realize that if you wound anybody else, you wound yourself because of the intimate interconnections that we have, then you stop doing that. And you realize no one can heal your own pain. If you don't do it, no one else will. And one of the things that prevents a person from healing their own pain is the shame they feel. And when you have shame, you may just go to your room and lick your wounds. It's perfectly okay behind the scene not to let anybody see it. Maybe you need some time for the open wound to scab over and so forth. But it doesn't really get the healing done. It just gives you some respite. You can be filled with bristling anger, and you can keep people away with your anger so that nobody can shame you. That also just makes you go further inside yourself. You can have contempt for yourself or for anything that you learned inside your family, your school, your religious tradition. And maybe you can bully people so that they seem to be less than you. And in that way, they can't shame you. You're shaming them. But there's no reconciliation there either. You can transfer the shame to your children or your colleagues, or if you're a teacher, students, or anybody really. You can strive for perfection and let your virtuosity hide the fact that you're wounded. You can blow people away by the special gift that you have. But you have such high standards usually, not only do you fall short, but certainly everybody else falls short of your expectations. Or you can just keep taking it in. The older you get, the more you can grow your holding tanks and just keep the shame building and building. But the whole key, of course, is to be open to a certain kind of playfulness. Are you willing to shift it, willing to change it, willing to work with it, willing to see it in a different way? So hopefully you'll find that there's a spark of the divine or of human excellence, human possibility, human potential within you. So find your purpose, direct your life that way, commit yourself to it, forgive yourself for what you did or didn't do, ask forgiveness if you need to from other people. Don't be a slave to other people who may have perpetrated on you. Don't forget, but forgive so you can move on. And then realize that you're not going to live forever. You don't have time to waste. So start on it right away. Even now, I hope that as you're listening to this, you're starting to think about, in what way have I carried shame? Have I carried it too long? Do I need to waste another moment? I hope not. So find the people who don't block your effort for growth. Step up into the tests. Like they say, You meet the witch, and the witch asks you a question. If you don't get it right, she eats you on the spot. So get ready for the challenge, because everyone will be tested. And I hope that you find the resources that help you